Hey there, it's Kay, and thank you so much for joining me for today's budget video where I will be doing something I haven't done in a while and sharing my monthly budget closeout process for May 2021. But before I get started, as always, thank you to my returning subscribers. Thank you guys for joining me again. And if you're new to my channel, I would love to see you follow me on my journey by subscribing down below because it's free and it really, really helps out my channel. So without further ado, let's close out this budget. So we are back in May because I'm going to be closing out my budget with you guys on camera. I kind of stopped doing this for a little bit because I was in school and I was very strapped for time. So I just wanted to share the most important parts of my budgeting process, like my paycheck budgets and my monthly budgets and my cash stuffing. But now that I'm out of school, I have more free time, so I'm going to share with you guys this closeout process. So I'm going to remove the estimated budget. We'll be filling in the actual numbers and variance based off of these paycheck budgets that I had. So I'm going to need this side, and I'm going to need my calculator because we're going to have to go through and add up some things. So I changed my camera setup a little bit too, so I hope you guys can see everything. I hope everything looks straight. So calculator on. First we're gonna go through and add up all of my total incomes, and I had a few different forms of income for May. I had my standard income from my full-time job. I took in this Visa gift card that I received from my parents for my birthday, and I also took in a sinking fund that was for my car registration because I had to get my car registered. So we're gonna go ahead and total everything up because I did budget for all of these things, but there is a little bit of variance. So for my work income, I did receive $14.63 from my first paycheck, and then my second one was $15.01. So my total income from work was $29.64. And $29.64, I budgeted $2,500, so I had a surplus of $464 from my work income. And then for the Visa gift card, it was a fixed amount of $400, and then the car registration was also a fixed amount that I saved of $200. So I'm going to fill those in, and then I actually think I'm going to swap these sides because I'm very right-handed. My left hand is kind of useless to me, so I don't really like to have stuff on my left, but this might work better. So I had the $200 from the sinking fund and the $400 from my card, which means there was no variances on these. So the actual income total would be $29.64 plus $600, so $35.64. I budgeted for 31, so I'd have a surplus of $464. So let's move into my fixed expenses, which I'm usually really good at getting those amounts either exactly right because a lot of those bills are on auto pay, or getting it under budget because of my utilities. So Spotify is always $5, and that's a student discount plan. If you're a student, I highly recommend you get it because it's like half price. It's such a good value. Sprint is $36. My car insurance is through Safeco was $190. And then the second paycheck, my car registration came out to $146. So I was under budget on that. Tuition is always $50. It's on auto pay now. And then Adobe was $16. And then rent and utilities was $844. Because I remember I had to increase my budget on that because I was over budget a little bit before because the cost of things has gone up, unfortunately. So at least I prepared for that in this month and was still under budget. So 200 minus the 146 put me at a surplus of 54. And then my rent was a surplus of 31. Everything else didn't have a variance. All of these are on auto pay, so the only time they would change is like if my policy renewed and the cost of it went down and I didn't notice it at first because I get an e-statement that I sometimes don't pay attention to. I'm really bad at that. But yeah, so I was under budget in everything on my fixed expenses. So I'm gonna need to add all of these up. So we had 146 plus 5 plus 36 plus 190 plus 50 plus 16 plus 844. So 1287. And I budgeted for 1372, so I was almost $100 under budget. Yeah, because 54 plus 31 would have been 85. Yeah, so that works out. So we had 35, 64, 2277. And the way I'm going to check these numbers is through the variance. So 54 plus 31 is 85 plus 464 is 549. And so 2277 minus 1728 should be 549. Beautiful. So that works out. So category was plus 85. Total, we were plus 549. And this is why I like to go back and close it out, which I normally do off camera. But it's really nice to see, you know, when you get more income or you're under budget, you can kind of see how everything built up to have an extra income, which was why I was able to make such a huge debt payment towards my student loans. So these values are going to carry down into my variable expenses, which again are like another set of numbers that I'm pretty diligent at like keeping as accurate and as straight as possible. And I was still doing the cash envelope method at this point, so all of these values were pulled out as cash. And so when I pull it out of my account, it's in my mind, it's gone. So I think I technically ended up with like $11 left over, but I'm not going to count that as a rollover or anything. I'm just going to like tuck it away in my coin case or something, and keep it for like a small emergency, or I'll probably just stick it in my wallet for if I'm traveling and I need like quick gas money or something. When it came to cash, I wasn't very diligent about tracking necessarily like where the money was coming and going. Sometimes I would take money out of gas to pay for food and vice versa. And like everything was just kind of rolling around. And as long as I didn't spend more than what I took out in cash, I was fine with it. It was more of a way of just controlling the spending for me. But now that I care more about where the money is going, that's why I went cashless, so I can actually keep track of what I'm spending my money on in a way that is easier and simpler for my budget. So yeah, I just consider all of this spent because I pulled it out of my account. So there's no variance on any of these. I'm just going to pull it down to no variance. So it was 500. So 22 minus 5 is going to be 17. So we had 1777. We still were in the positive 549. And then we could check that by 1777. I hate sevens. I tell you guys this all the time. I hate the number 7. It's literally the worst number. 1228 is 549. So that's good. So we're going to move on to sinking funds. So 1777 for sinking funds. And I'd budgeted saving $600 to go towards my iPad, which I finally got. I actually have it down here. I made sure I had enough money for the iPad and the Apple Pencil and the case, and I don't have the keyboard on it, but it's a Logitech keyboard case, so it's like a mini laptop. I love that thing. It was so worth the savings. I highly recommend if you never used an iPad Pro, because I was using just a 6th gen iPad before. It is so worth the upgrade. It's so good. So I saved the $600 towards the iPad. I know that for sure. But because I had my car registration fund and it was all in cash, because my city takes cash for car payments, for car registration payments, I had that $54 left over. And so I ended up putting that into my car maintenance sinking fund because that was money meant for my car anyway. So I'm actually going to add that because we didn't budget for it. So here's something interesting where we didn't budget for it, so it was deficit on that. And that was no change on that. So it was $654, but we had a surplus of $549 minus 54, $495. Hold on, I'm going all over the place on the math on this. So 628 plus 495 is 1123, and then if we take 1777 minus 654, 1123. So that did work out. 1123. And then plus 495. And this is the best part because this is where you can see where that huge extra debt payment that I did came from. So I had the goal of paying off my Nelnet A student loan, which was $612, which I did. But I also made a huge payment onto my next goal loan, which was my Nelnet D, which is something I didn't budget for. But because I had so much excess, I was like, why not? So we did $400 of extra payments on that for a total of $1,012 towards debt, extra towards debt, because I still have my tuition is still going towards debt. It's just not extra. So this was a deficit and this was no change. So we ended with a surplus 95, and 1123 minus 1012 is 1111. I'm gonna actually double check that. Yeah, okay. 1111, because I think that's what I paid. Yeah, that's what I put in my emergency fund. So that works out. So category, I was deficit. So this is, yeah. So, okay, I do kind of briefly plan these videos out. So I did kind of already look at these numbers a little bit. And when I was looking at this part, I was so confused. I was like, when I was looking at here, I budgeted $116 out of the second paycheck, but I only budgeted 16, not 116 for the month. And I'm like, I don't know how the math worked out. I think it was just the way that I had my bills set per paycheck. But that's the other thing. That's the importance of doing the monthly closeout, is just being like, I wonder why that happened. But yeah, so I did this 1111 into my emergency fund to zero out my budget, because I do a zero-based budget. And hopefully 1111 minus 16 is 95, which it is. So we did zero it out properly. So we were deficit 95 for the category, which zeroes out the variance in the monthly budget. And I don't have my sheet set up to do percentages, but if you did want to check your percentages, you would just reflect it off of your income. So for example, if I wanted to compare how much I spent on fixed expenses compared to my total income, you would do 1287 divided by the total income, 3564, and then you multiply that by 100 because percent is out of 100. So I spent 36% of my income on fixed expenses, and I'll just mark it for now because it is an interesting number. 1012 divided by 3564 times 100. So yeah, 28%. And for extra debt was 28%, extra savings 3%, and these aren't going to add up to a perfect 100 because I wasn't using fractions, I was using decimal approximations, and so it's not going to be a perfect 100%. But in case you're curious on to how to check your budget category percentages, that is how you would calculate that. Again, I'm not really into that right now, so I don't even have that on my sheet, but maybe I'll add it just for fun because math is always fun to do. But anyway, if you made it to the end of the video, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, make sure you do so down below so that you can continue to follow me on my journey. And I hope to see you in the comment section down below, and I hope to see you in the next video. Peace out.